Everyone. So our topic for today is about bb.net report viewer. So what are the first steps, no, para magawa yung report viewer? So first, right click this, then click add new item, and then find the Windows form. Then you can rename it here, but you can also rename on the properties. So let's add it. Okay, so now we have form 2, okay, on your Visual Studio. I already told you how to add a form last midterm, no, in our in Windows form topic, no, that we had in Module 5, if I'm not mistaken. So I just added it here para clear lang po sa iba kasi baka limot na nila. Then the next step is to add the report viewer. So you can search here on the search toolbar, or you can find it below, no? In reporting, under reporting, there's a report viewer. Then just drag it on your form. Ayan. So now that you already add it, so i-align lang natin siya dun sa form. Okay. Next step is to click this side, right panel, and then dock in the parent container. Ma'am, para saan po yung dock in? So, when we start the form, no, which is pupunta yan automatically dito eh. So, tinuruan ko naman kayo, no, to test a specific form, you just need to go here, properties, and then change the startup form. Okay, and then save it. Ngayon, kapag niran mo na yan, so automatically, this will go to form 2. Ngayon, nakagandaan sa kanya, guys. So, kita nyo, para siyang may bootstrap. No? Kung saan siya pumunta, no? Nagre-resize yung kanyang report view. Okay, so ganun kaganda yon kapag nakadock. No? Okay, so then, let's stop it. Change it to form 1. And then, next step is right-click again this Solution Explorer, and then click Add, New Item. Then, find the data, click Data, then click Dataset, okay? Then, add it. So, automatically, ito na yun, no? The next step, guys, is to drag this data table going to your environment. Ayan. And then, name this DS first. Oh. Ayan. Then, next is add. Click add. Then, column. So, alam naman natin, ang first column natin is ID. Ngayon, to double check, okay, aside from the form 1, where we can find the fields, no, in the codes, which is ID, first name, middle name, and last name, another thing that you can do is click the start menu and then type MySQL server. Ayan, so ito yun, yung pinag-aralan natin nung nakaraan. But I did not include this on your tutorial, okay, on the recorded video. Ayan, so enter, and then show databases. So we have db underscore first, then use db underscore first, then show tables, tvl info. Next step is to select all. Everything that you code, no, dun sa inyong Visual Studio is also working here, like insert, update, delete all. CRUD and select query can be used here on your MySQL server from tbl info. And so, yan yung laman niya. And then, next step is to describe the table. Yan. Describe, tapos tbl info. Ayan. So, medyo ano lang, no, ay, So, makikita nyo dito, no, guys, yung dinescribe ko, makikita niyo lahat ng fields na meron doon sa table. So, actually, dito naman sa dataset, kung ano lang yung reports na gusto ninyong gawin, yun lang yung mag-appear. Pero because we only have limited fields, no, na in-add dito sa ating MySQL server, we will all add all of that columns, no. So, right-click again, then add the column. What's that? F-name. Add another column. M-name. Add another column. L-name. Okay, so once that you already add this, guys, the next step is to go to Form 2 again. Go to Form 2, and then, go to Dataset, and then, so it's correct, no? So it's already correct. So we have ds underscore first. You should always remember that. Okay, so we have ds underscore first. Okay, so always remember that. It means dataset underscore first. Okay, and then followed by the go to Form 2, and then click again this left funnel, and then create a design a new report. Yan. So now you can have a data source na here, which we created no, a while ago. So click the data set. Okay. Automatically, because we didn't rename it. Okay, dito, oh, ayan, data set 1. Automatically, all available data set will come here. No? So, pwede kayong mag-create ng maraming data set for different reports. No? Ang inad ko nga lang dito ay isa, that's why isa lang yung nag-appear. And then, click next. Then, drag all of these columns, guys, dito sa values. No? It's up to you kung ano yung arrangement. No? You can change the arrangement here. And then next, you can also, yan, so we can show the subtotals and the totals, but because we don't have computation here, so all we need to do is to click the next. And then we have different designs here. And so, ocean yung pinili ko nung nakaraan. So, let's use another theme. No? How about forest? Yan, kulay green. So, let's use forest, then finished. So, we already now have a data set. The next step is to go to your form, and then in your form, double-click, and so then next, we will create a load form here. That's the next step. So next, let's first import some MySQL query. Or your MySQL server, let's import it using a MySQL connector. So to do that, okay, so here we import the MySQL data, MySQL client, which is ito po yung in-import natin kung naaalala ninyo. No? This is the MySQL connector, which will serve as a connector or bridge between your Visual Studio and your MySQL server. Okay, so yun po yun. Then next is we need to also to import the Microsoft Reporting Windows form. Okay, because we are going to use reports, so we need to have this imports. Okay? Para yung nilagay natin dito sa report design, ito, so nagmatic yan, no? Is may incorporate din natin dito sa ating pag-load natin ng code na ito. The next step is to declare the connection. Okay. Once we declare the connection, the next step is to create a subload, no? A sub-procedure which will load the data in your reports. Okay, so let me type first the code before I explain it one by one. Okay, so I'm done on typing all of the codes. Now I will explain it one by one. So first, we declare the MySQL connection, okay? And then we create or we declare also the report data source. Okay, so we need to declare that, guys, so that we can have a connection between your report data source, which is this one, and to your form 2. Okay, and then next is we create the connection. I know you are already familiar with this because we already discussed this last time, okay, last meeting. Now, next step is we create a try-catch. Okay, so try-catch will hold the errors in case that there is no such things like database DB first and a table which named TBL info, or a field which is ID first name, middle name, and last name. So, or the counts of columns is not equivalent or not align with the numbers of the fields that we have in our MySQL server. So, yun yung mga errors, no, na ika-catch nitong ating try-catch. That's why we added a try-catch, no. Then, this message, okay, will be critical or will pop up once that an error is detected or a mistyped columns, even the spelling, guys, is very important. No, not just the count of the fields, but also the correct spelling matters. Okay? So, yun yung trabaho ng try-catch. And we already discussed this nung last time. Now, let's have this report read. Okay? So, in here, we have the report viewer local report. Okay? And then we added the report path. Okay? Which will call the report 1 RDLC. Ano ba yung report 1 RDLC? Ito po yung create natin na ito. No, ito yung design view, no, na ang pinili natin ay forest yata, if I'm not mistaken, for the template. So, yan yung tinatawag niya for the startup. And then, it will clear all the records. So, if we have existing record, and then we run it again, but we deleted some fields, automatically, it will clear out yung previous na niload dun sa report na yon. Okay? Pero kung hindi natin to nilagay, guys, papatong siya. Kagaya lamang din to nung data grid. So, papatong lang ng papatong yung mga records, no? Nagkaka-duplicate. Okay? So, yun lang yung magiging problem dito, no? Kapag hindi natin clear. So, yan. So, next is we need to create adapter. Okay? So, we all know adapter will bridge your data set and your reports. Okay? So, or your MySQL command. Okay? So, that's the job of a MySQL data adapter, to connect between the data set and your query. Okay? Now, the next is to create the data set. So, we name it DS here, no? And we call the data set 1. So, alam naman natin kung ano yung data set. Ito siya, no? Yung create natin na data set. Okay? So, that's data set. Okay? And we declare it as a DS para mas madali siyang tawagin. And then, now, we create again an open and a close connection. Okay? It's very important to open and close the connection. Why? If we are not going to close, no, the connection between the database and your Visual Studio, it will load and it will take too much memory on your RAM, no? Kasi hindi nyo naman na kailangan talagang panghabang buhay na i-open yun. Ibig sabihin, panghabang buhay niyang while you're running the program, it will select, no? Paulit-ulit niyang isa-select yung TBL info, which is not applicable or it's not appropriate, no, to do that. That's why we need to close it. No? Once we run and once we select the query, we need to close it. No? Para hindi siya paulit-ulit na nagra-run and it will consume a lot of memory space in your RAM. Okay? Now, here, I know you're already familiar with this one. So, we create an adapter which will have the commands, which will have the select ID, first name, middle name, last name. Actually, we can use asterisk here because all the fields are selected, and then the table name, and then the connection, okay? So we need to identify the connection, no? Kung saang connection siya manggagaling, what particular local host or server, what ID, what password, and what database. That's the most important thing. So we need to identify the local host or the PC, okay? PC IP address, no? Or a server address to identify yung connections, no? Kung saan manggagaling yung records, okay? Which will come from DB first that has a local host, okay? So, local host kasi ito lang, sarili na lang yung ginagamit niya. But once sabi ko nga sa inyo, no, if you are going to use a network, okay, and then you have different clients and you have a server which holds the database of your records, so kung ano yung IP address ng ating PC, that will be input here. Okay? Paano ba nalalaman yon? No, I know nagkaroon na kayo ng networking. Ayan. So, halimbawa, itong server na to, ito yung gagamitin ko as your server, no? Ang IP address is this one, 172.168.96.1. So, that will serve as your server. Okay? Yan yon, papalitan niya yan. So, kung halimbawa may iba't iba kayong PC and then yung isa ay gagawin ninyong server, so yun yung kukunin ninyo, no? Kukunin niyo siya sa CMD and then you will type ipconfig for that server to know the IP address. Okay? So, next, we need to fill, no? From the adapter, which has this kind of command and connection, we will fill that and ibabato natin siya sa DS tables. Na saan nanggagaling yun? Okay? Saan manggagaling yung record? From the DS_first. Okay? So, ano ba yung pinangalan natin dito? DS_first. So, we will call that. Okay? Now, once we call that, and we fill everything, every records on your TBL info will be filled on your DS table. Na. Ngayon, that will close. Okay? Then, once we close that, we will also create a report, okay, which names RPTDS, equal new report data source, and we will call the datasets. Ito, guys, hindi naman natin siya pinangalanan, so datasets, that's why datasets pa rin. And then, yung sa particular dataset, may DS table, which is yung DS or dataset_first. Okay? So, that DS_first will be called, okay, coming from here, no? Okay. May laman na siya, di ba? May laman na coming from this command. Okay? Nagkaroon na ng laman yung DS first. Okay? So, ngayon, dahil may laman na yung DS first, no? Ibabato yan dito sa report viewer.localreport.datasource. I-add yan sa RPTDS, yung any laman na nilagay natin dito sa DS first na coming from this command and these connections. Okay. And then, it will set a display mode, no? Ayan. Na where we can print the layout, okay, inside that report. Tapos, we can zoom it, okay? So, ito, 30, palitan natin, gawin natin 100, no, yung zoom niya. Masyado kasing maliit yung 30. Ewan ko ba ba't ko ginawang 30? Okay, by the way. And then, that's it. Okay? Then, ito, alam niyo naman na to, yung magka-catch ng error in case na mali yung bilang ng fields, or mali yung spelling ng fields, mali yung spelling ng table, mali yung database, mali yung localhost or root, yung user, yung password. So, it will catch the error. Now, the next step is, ngayon, once that you put all of that codes here on your form 2, no, in your subload reports, go to your form 1. Ayan. Then, add a button. Ayan. Then, type here print. Or, pwede rin namang, view reports. Okay, hindi ko na matandaan yung nilagay ko sa module. Ayan. and then change it to BTN reports. Okay, now that we are done, double click that, and then we will add a code here. Here, we create a with, which we will call the form 2. So, ano yung tatawagin natin sa form 2? We will call the load report. And it will show as a dialog. Okay? So, ganun yung mangyayari sa kanya. So, pag click mo ng button na reports, it will call the form 2, and it will call the load reports or the sub-procedure that we created, and then it will show as a dialog. Okay? So, let's run the code. Ayan. And then let's click the view. So we only have two records here. Okay. So I need to change a bit of codes, no? So there is nothing wrong naman doon sa ating code. So pag ganyan, huwag kayong matataranta. No? I-run lang natin ulit, and then let's check kung ano ba talaga yung error. So, sabi dito, an error occurred during local report processing. The report definition for report 1 has not been specified. So, kapag nagra-run kasi tayo, automatically, nasa bin kasi yun eh. No? And then debug, then report 1 RDLC. But, okay, close natin, tandaan nyo, bin, debug, report RDLC. But, no, nung pag right click natin to guys, properties, no, ito yung kanyang kung nasan siya ngayon, no, naka-inlagay. Copy lang natin yan, type natin sa start menu, paste natin, tanggalin lang natin to kasi magra-run yan kapag ganun. Then, enter. So, nandito siya. Pero ang sabi kanina, dapat nandun daw siya sa bin, tapos sa debug. So, cut lang natin to, no, cut. Then, go to bin, debug. Okay, and then paste it here. Ayan. So, once we do that, no, let's run again the code. Okay, yes mo lang. Then, let's view the report. And now, it's working. Okay, so, ayan. Okay, so it's working na. No? So, that ends our discussion. So, I hope you learn, no? Okay lang yun kahit may ma-encounter kayo na error kasi you need to place something talaga, no? You need to change the location, okay, of a specific file. Hindi naman yun naiwasan, no? Kasi ang automatically kasi kapag nagraran tayo, ang niraran niya is yung nasa bin and then yung nasa debug. And because hindi niya mahanap dun yung copy ng report, that's why we got an error. Pero ayan, we fix it naman, no? It's as you can see, nagwo-work, no? So let's try again, no? Let's run. And then, let's add the record. Titingnan natin kung gumagana yung clear, no? Ayan. And then, let's view the reports. So, pag ganito kasi, ayan. Ayan. So, ayan. So, as you can see now, guys, na-add siya, no? Yung panibagong na-add natin na record ay nadagdag siya. So, it's working properly. So, that ends our discussion. So, I hope you learn on our lesson for today, which is about report viewer.